This is a short video to read in from a file using a scanner instead of using the techniques that were in the previous video, which used a buffered reader and a file reader. Okay, so since Java 1.5, the scanner has been available to make the reading in of information a little bit easier. And I'm going to do this with an array list of event objects instead of an array. So if you look at both of these examples, you'll see arrays and array lists being used. I've started this thing off. I've put in the same project as before. I've got the event class as before. I've got the same file of data as before. And that's the original main class with the buffered reader and the file reader. I've created another one called the scanner class, and I've set up an array list of events. Now the first thing that I need to do is create a new scanner. So I'm just going to say scanner s equals new scanner, and it will say that I have to add the import for scanner. So I've done that. Still doesn't like it because I haven't met the signature for the constructor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use new file, and the file, I'll have to add the import for Java file. Still not right, because in here I must put the name of the file that I'm going to use. So already you can see that it's easier than the previous example. Then what I can start to do is I can do the usual thing. I can get the size of the file, integer dot parse int, and then I'm going to read in from the scanner, and the commands from scanner are things like next, has next is quite a useful one. See if there's anything there. I can read in a whole line with next line, so that reads in a line as a string, and I can turn it into an integer. So that's the first line. And then what I'm going to do is, just looking back to the format I got, first thing was the number of items, and then I can just read everything one at a time. And that was specifically set up so that I could read it in as an array, and I knew how many items to expect. For an array list, because it's a variable size, I don't really need that 4 at the beginning. I don't need to use that. What I could do is, it doesn't like scanner. Why does it like scanner? Because scanner throws an exception, so you have to surround it with a try catch, just as you had before. And it's actually split up the declaration of S and the creation of it. And I need to put that. Let's take that from there and put it in there. Okay, so we've read in the size, but now what we can do is we can do while s dot has next. So in other words, while there's more information in the scanner, I can read that in. So I can do string new line equals s dot next line. And then I can do very similar to what I did before. I can create a string tokenizer, spelled it wrong, tokenizer st as a new string tokenizer new line, comma. What do I want to use as tokens? I want to use either a comma or a slash, like that. And I have to add the import for tokenizer. I'm just going to shrink that slightly so we get more of the code on the screen. Now what I could do actually is I could just go to the file example, and a lot of this is going to be the same. So if let's just copy that section of code there. You'll see that some of it's different. Just to speed things up, I'm going to copy it and then I'll make the changes. Okay, so the next thing is I read in the description, which is the next token of the string tokenizer. Then I can read in the day, the month, and the year. Now the thing that's different is before events was an array, and now events is an array list. So instead of events count is assigned as, I'm going to have events dot, and there should be an add method. There we go. So if I say add, and I'm going to add the new event with the correct thing set up. I don't need to worry about the count, and I don't need to worry about reading in a new line, because the next thing that I do, just making sure that that's right. I've added too many brackets. So what I'm going to do is I finish off reading things in, create the event, and then I go back in the loop and I check whether there's there's something else to read in. If there is, then I can read it. So it's slightly different to how we did it before. But that's how to use a scanner. And the last thing that you should do is, once you've finished reading in all the information, make sure that you close the scanner, and then that will stop things being read in. And we can use the logger if you like. I often just like to use a system.out and print out what the exception is. So if anything goes wrong, you can print it out and you can do something and react to what the exception is later on. Just to show you that these things do exist, I'm going to do for event E in this dot. Oops, can't use that, can I? Because I'm not in a class. But event E in events. Is that what I called it? That's right. What I can do is s out E, or s out E dot to string. Right, so if I run that, now I've got a little bit of an issue here because I've got two things. I've got file.io example has a main method in it, and I've got the scanner has a main method in it as well. So I'm going to click on scanner, right click and say run file, and that should run, hopefully, the scanner class. So there you go, that's the output of the scanner class. And if I wanted to write to a file, then I could use the buffered writer and exactly the same code as before. The only thing that would be different in this example would be that I was using an array list. So instead of just writing out an element of an array, I would use the name of the array list, events, and I could use the dot get element I, or I could use a for each loop to get each individual element and write them to a file. Okay, so two alternatives: either use the buffered reader and the file reader, or use the scanner. It's entirely up to you.